Hearts. You know, I know it's only 5 games in, but could they actually upset the grain?
About a month ago, I did a video on Hearts and the remarkable situation they found themselves in, that they were level on points with Celtic after 5 games, and looking at the situation that Rangers were in, they could have sort of upset that grain of Rangers and Celtic and pushed for that second spot. They are now 8 points clear, 9 games gone. I repeat that, 8 points clear. They've inflicted back-to-back defeats on Celtic in the league this season. They lost away to Dundee for the first time since the 80s last week. This is remarkable. Could they actually do the unthinkable here? And this situation is so interesting. Tony Bloom with that 29% stake in the club, you know, the investment that went in this summer, they signed a few players, they changed the model, you know, the model that worked really well with Brighton, the model that worked fantastically with Royal Union St Gilloise, winning the league for the first time in 90 years. You know, he came out with quotes in the summer and said, you know, there's no reason why we couldn't finish second. Well, I tell you right now, there is no reason. At the moment, they couldn't even go against the grain and win the league. A non-Celtic or Rangers team winning the league for the first time in 40 years since Fergie's Aberdeen. And aside from that defeat that Celtic had at Dundee last week, you know, getting knocked out the Champions League qualifying stages to Almaty, obviously in the Europa League, they won in midweek. They were outplayed there. Like today, they could not cope with the pressing that Hearts has put on them. Hearts genuinely, and I know it is early days, I know they could potentially play Celtic another 3 times this season. I know we're about a quarter into the season. They could really threaten him here. And I love the model. This striker here, Braga, they signed him from a first division Norwegian side, and he's the top goal scorer in the league right now. There's no denying that Hearts are taking advantage of the troubles at Celtic at the moment. You know, the fan unrest with the board. You know, Rodgers, he's come out with some very interesting quotes last week. He came out and said you wouldn't enter a race with a Honda Civic and expect it to drive like a Ferrari. There are a lot of tensions building, and he clearly feels that the club he's not been backed. You know, they lost Kyogo, they lost Kuhn as well. Like, you know, they got Iheanacho in on a free after the window closed, but they really look off it. And one thing you have to bear in mind as well, Hearts aren't in Europe. Celtic have still got to balance the league with Europe as well. Hearts are not in Europe. Hearts can go as far and as possibly as high as they want to. Like I said at the time, I'm not going to pretend I'm an SPFL super fan. I'm not, you know, I was up there in March and I went to a game. It was great, a Hibs game. I love seeing Hoylett. I love seeing Dwight Gale there. You know, it was brilliant, but I don't think the SPFL gets the love it deserves, especially when you look at fan turnout, those stats. They are brilliant. It's commendable, really. It's a league that a lot of people don't particularly appreciate enough, but I tell you right now, this right here, it feels like it's not quite a Leicester story, but it feels like something special could be brewing, especially when you look at all those upsets that happened this year across the board, all those teams ending those trophy droughts, you know, everything that happened across all European leagues. It was absolutely insane.